Hi everyone, my name is Bea, and I'm a 26-year-old trans girl currently living in Oakland, California. I grew up in North Carolina and in the past have been a professional musician, an archaeologist, as well as a few other things. But in the past few months I've started doing tailoring and alterations for queer and trans people living in the Bay Area. All on a sliding scale. And actually recently I've become very involved with the NOTAFLOF, No One Turned Away for Lack of Funds collective in North Oakland, and that's actually where I'm very excitedly going to be able to expand a bit more, and I'll tell you about that in a sec. So when I first came out, sewing was like a lifesaver to me. I had lost a lot of weight, I was obviously wearing different clothes, and hormones were changing my body, so I bought a cheap sewing machine and picked back up how to sew. My mom had taught me the basics when I was little, and started to learn how to tailor my own clothes, and after a while I started to really enjoy it and get a hang of it. And then my friends, who all of which are queer and trans, started having, or always had similar issues, so I helped, and so over the past few months I've started doing it for the broader community. I really want to keep it sliding scale so everyone can have access to tailoring, because a lot of the people who come to me really don't have much money but desperately need it, because queer and trans people, most of the clothes we wear tends not to be made exactly for our bodies. That's just not what clothing designers are currently trying to do. Except me, and I'll also get to that in a sec. So it's also very necessary to sometimes have queer and trans tailors, because some tailors are very unfamiliar / homophobic and transphobic when it comes to how they tailor clothes, and they don't understand trans bodies and the way they are. And so that's why many of my clients come to me, because it's way more comfortable for them. And I appreciate it. But essentially what it comes down to is I've figured out that I cannot handle the demand for affordable queer tailoring in the Bay Area. I think it would probably take at least 10 to 15 tailors to keep up with all of the work, and there's only a few people doing it. So right now I'm doing about 90 to 95% of my time is spent focused on actually just doing tailoring for individual people. But honestly, I'm seriously swamped. I get a lot of requests. So I want to switch my time over to try to broaden my scope as well as follow my passion a little more. And I want to spend about a third of my time doing what I've been doing, tailoring for queer and trans people who either don't feel comfortable with regular tailors or can't afford them. I want to spend the next third of my time, though, essentially teaching other people how to sew and getting them more experience with sewing. One thing I want to do is have classes and workshops. Some will be basic sewing things, some might be like how to make a men's button-up shirt into a blouse for trans women, how to make jeans that are marketed towards women with tiny, tiny pockets actually have usable pockets, anything like that. And then I want to do a work or labor share, so where if someone comes to me, particularly someone who doesn't have much money, possibly someone who isn't working at the time, they can work for me for essentially however many hours it would take for me to do their thing, and I'll have them do basic sewing things. Not the most exciting, but it'll be fun. We'll hang out at the collective and listen to music or something. And then the last thing is apprenticeships. So I've had actually almost a dozen people at this point request to become my apprentice. And I'd like to start a program where essentially I can have people come help me regularly and actually teach them what I do until they can get to a point where they can do it on their own, and then they actually learn. And yeah, so that's how I'm trying to broaden my scope, and why support from not only the space but the people at NOTAFLOF is going to be amazing. Then the last thing I want to do is that ever since I've started sewing on my own, I've really enjoyed designing my own clothes and wearing them. It makes me feel unique, and it makes me feel like I'm actually contributing to queer fashion or queer culture, instead of just like taking these clothes that often are queer designed but are intended for straight cis people, and then trying to fit them to ourselves. I like just creating my own things. And I'm particularly femme, or at least now I am, so that's what I like to make for, because while there are queer fashion designers who definitely design for femme people, there's almost no one who makes that clothing like explicitly queer, and that's part of what leads to feminine visibility. So I'm hoping my designs can maybe help with that a little. So what I'm currently wearing is the first dress I ever finished. It's my favorite going out and party dress. And all the dresses I make, all the clothing I make has pockets, because it's ridiculous to not have pockets. This here is the second dress I made. I call it the bee dress, for obvious reasons. And I've also made a number of other tops and a skirt and a few other various items, including purses. So this purse is a prototype for a bunch of other ones I'm making. So at first glance it's a nice small one, and actually the other ones are going to have removable straps, so it could be like a clutch. But there's a zipper that goes all the way around the outside, which expands it and makes it much bigger. So it's great for putting like water bottles in and things like that. That's what I often do, is like bring a water bottle that collapses and then bring it to clubs and stuff, so I always have water with me, and then yeah, it's not an issue. And there's also in all of these a hidden compartment where essentially if your purse ever gets stolen but you get it back, no one's ever going to get those things out of that pocket. Something small like a card or money or something, because they won't even notice it's there. And I will show you that if you buy one, otherwise I probably shouldn't. And it also happens to be glow in the dark. So on top of making dresses and tops, and I'll even make some vests for you masculine or center people, or even your femme people, I really want to spend time designing my own things. So I'm not very used to doing this, and I'm not very used to asking for money, but I've had a lot of people talk about how they'd like to see what happens with my work. So if you're someone who has any money to spare, even just $1 or $2 a month, that would make a huge difference in not only allowing me to like follow my own passions and design things, because even if I'm just making dresses for myself, the fabric costs money. And unfortunately, while there's tons of trans and queer people who'd love to pay me lots of money for custom clothing, very few of them can afford it. So, if you want to help me in any way continue my designs and trying to contribute to queer fashion, or if you just want to help people who need tailoring from someone like me who's affordable, or if you want to help the hopefully lots of people I'm going to teach to sew and to tailor their own clothes and others' clothes, so this can be a much more broad community thing where there's not just a few queer and trans tailors in the Bay. There's a lot more who can serve our community. So if you have anything to spare, it would mean the world to me, and I would appreciate it greatly, but I also understand if you don't. But regardless, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Alright, bye!